housekeeping information. First, remote interpretation is available via the FIFA Interpreting app. You can see the QR code on the screen. If you haven't done it yet, please download the app and choose your preferred language. Language available for this press conference is French, English, and Arabic. Should you have any question, please raise your hand, introduce yourself by saying your name, the media you're working for, the language you're going to use for the question, and please ask the question in one of the language said. For photographers, please, we'll allow you to take pictures for 5 minutes, and then afterwards, I will ask you to stop. Finally, put your phone in the mute mode and shut down the hotspot. Otherwise, it will trouble with the Wi-Fi. We are all ready to start, so questions?
ريفين رمزي روداو سؤالي لحاخب الفرنسي كيف يساعد
رابين رمزي روداو. How is the French team preparing for the first game, especially that the first game is always the most difficult? Thank you.
Sorry, could you repeat please the question? Thank you.
كيف تستعد منتخب فرنسا لمباراة أولى في كأس
How
العالم؟
is the French team preparing for the first game of the World Cup, knowing that the first game is the most difficult for any team to play? Thank you.
Oui, effectivement, comme vous l'avez souligné, le premier match est toujours
Yes, as you mentioned, the first game is always the hardest, it's always the most significant. It's about getting the ball rolling for the competition. We are title holders, therefore expectations are very high, but I think that the team has worked very well together over the course of the past few days. Despite the circumstances, despite the injuries, we have been able to get our heads down, progress together as a team, and we are raring to go and looking forward to starting this World Cup. Thank you.
Bonjour Hugo, Vincent Deluc à l'équipe. Une question en français.
Vincent Deluc from l'équipe, a question in French. So everything that's come up until now, do you think that this takes off a little bit of pressure for you, or do you think it's a bad omen?
No,
we're continuing to believe in our chances, in our group, in our squad, in this adventure. We're going to be using this in order to continue to grow together as a team, to support one another. Obviously, we've been hit with a couple of players being injured at the last minute. For Karim Benzema, we've had to deal with this over the course of the past 24 hours. We know just how important of a role he plays within the French squad. But I believe in our team, I believe that we will progress. We can't wait to get started with this first game, to start our competition, and to create a very positive dynamic around the different results that we hope to obtain. Even if we haven't had that long to prepare, we'll show exactly what we're made of on the pitch. And we'll see how it goes tomorrow after our first game against Australia. From Le Figaro, it will be a first World Cup for a lot of the players tomorrow. So you, as a captain, what are you going to really hone in on? How are you going to ensure that they don't get stage fright tomorrow? I think that within our team, we have players that are more experienced than others. As you mentioned, we do have quite a lot of young players, and we are going to be guiding them and taking them under our wing. But even though they don't have the experience of a World Cup, they are exceptionally talented. If they've been called up for the French squad, it's because they deserve their place here. And as I mentioned earlier, since the get-go, since we got called up, and despite the different aspects that we've been hit at, there is very positive energy within our team, and we hope that this will show in the concrete performance together. Carole, over here. Good afternoon. I work for W Radio in Colombia. My question is the following. I would like to know whether you feel under pressure because you are one of the favorites and you are always a favorite coming into a World Cup. This is your 4th World Cup. Do you think there'll be a 5th? Thank you. Maybe we'll focus on this 4th World Cup before speaking about the 5th. I'm so proud. I'm always so proud and so honored to be representing my country. In terms of stress, all of the teams competing in this World Cup are under stress. We are title holders, so obviously expectations are running high, but within our squad, within our team, within our group, we have a task that we want to complete. We're going to focus on the group stages to start off with and put ourselves in the best position so that we can finish on top of the group, top of the table, and then it will be a next stage of the competition. We're taking things one stage at a time, and we accord a lot of importance to the first game, as was mentioned. The curtain raiser tomorrow. Good morning, Ari from Norwegian TV. The statutes of FIFA Article 3 say that all discrimination against a group of persons or an individual for reasons linked to their gender is expressly forbidden. Why do you think, therefore, you're not allowed to be wearing the One Love armband tomorrow?
J'ai plutôt envie de dire que la FIFA organise la compétition.
FIFA is organizing this competition. It is therefore up to FIFA to put into place a regulatory framework. And us as players, we're here to play football and to represent our teams to the best we can from a sporting front. I would prefer to stay in my box. I'm a player and a competitor of this competition. But yes, as you mentioned, there are different causes that are very important that should be supported. They're commendable. As I mentioned, it's up to FIFA to take decisions with regards to the organization of the competition.
مستر لوريس، هل تعتقد أن قرب المسافات هنا بين الملاعب والبقاء في مركز تدريبي واحد
Ali Khalifa, do you think that being in this group is easier for you physically? And can France, do you think, carry the trophy for the second time in a row, which is an achievement that hasn't been made for a long period of time, knowing that you have many injuries, including injury with Karim Benzema and other players? Thank you.
Comme je l'ai dit précédemment,
as I mentioned earlier,
on est concentré sur cette phase de groupe.
We're very concentrated on this group stage. From an international standpoint, no game is an easy game. There's not a walk in the park for us. We are going to take on these matches one after the other with a lot of respect for our opponents. We want to have an adventure similar to that of the Euros in 2016 or even the World Cup in 2018. We want to live the highs, we want to have emotions running high, but we know that elite football is very demanding and sometimes you need to suffer. We need to be strong together. And as I mentioned, the team is ready to take on this challenge. We will progress and we will once again take on this challenge. Good afternoon, Hugo. It's Julian from M6. You are a squad, but obviously Mbappe is the star of the show. So how has he changed on the pitch, but also off the pitch since he made his debut on the international stage? I think that he's just lived up to the hope that was placed in him over the course of the past few years. When you have a player such as Kylian, it is very difficult to really define a limit with regards to his potential. His potential is incredible.
oui, concerné, concentré,
He is
détendu également.
involved, he is relaxed, he is concentrated, he is focused, and
De performer et
I
d'aider
think
l'équipe
that he's raring to perform on the pitch and to help the squad get the results that we want. Thank you.
مرحبا أيوب الحديثي من العربية الجديدة.
Hello, Ayub Hadithi from Al Arabiya. My question, Captain LLORIS.
لها نوع خاص للمنتخب الفرنسي، كيف يعلق على مواجهة
How can you comment on your game with Tunisia later on, knowing that the Tunisian team has many players in the French league?
Écoutez, avant tout, on va se concentrer sur le match de.
Let's focus on the game against Australia to start off with, before thinking about the game against Tunisia.
Comme je l'ai dit, on prend les matchs les uns
As
après
I
les
mentioned,
autres.
we're taking one day at a time, one match at a time.
De la Tunisie sera également
We know that the game against
un match
Tunisia
particulier puisqu'il y a
will be
une
very
communauté
particular. Why?
tunisienne
Because
assez
there
importante
is
en France
a
et
very
pour la plupart
important Tunisian
alliés,
community in France.
Mais voilà, d'abord le focus il est sur le
But
premier match.
we're going to concentrate on this first
On
game,
attache beaucoup
on this
d'importance
curtain
à ce
raiser.
match pour bien démarrer
This first game will be very important. We want to get off to a flying start in this World Cup. Hugo, over here. Rally MC, or RMC rather. When it comes to the French team, do you think that you're just as strong as you were in 2018?
Lorsqu'on démarre 2018, il y
When
avait
we
également une
started
part d'inconnu.
2018, there was also a lot of
Le
uncertainty.
succès il se construit à travers des étapes, à
Success
travers
is
des
something
matchs.
that you build through the different games, through the different
Ce sera le
stages.
cas également sur
And
cette
this will be
compétition.
exactly the same for this
Et c'est
competition.
ce qui fait également la beauté de
And
ce
this
sport.
is
Lorsqu'on
what
démarre, on peut avoir toutes les,
makes our sport so
toutes les
beautiful.
convictions
We've got all the
qu'on veut.
convictions,
Il y a une
and we
part
can have all the
d'inconnu.
convictions
C'est à
that
nous
we
d'aller
want, but
chercher
there is always
le
uncertainty,
succès
and therefore
en prenant les
uncertainty
matchs les uns
rather,
après les
and
autres.
therefore it is for us to show what
Je
we're
pense
made
qu'avec
of
les
match
grandes
after match,
nations
day after day.
ont
The great
certainement
nations out there
la même volonté et la même ambition que
have the
celle
same
de
ambitions and the same will as we do, I imagine.
Bonjour Hugo, Elliot Samuel, France 24.
Elliot Semer, France 24,
Comme
over
en
here.
2018, vous allez affronter
In
l'Australie pour ce
2018,
premier
or
match
just
du
as in
mondial.
2018,
Est-ce
you
que
are going
c'est
to
une rencontre
be
sur
facing
laquelle vous vous
Australia
appuyez?
for
Est-ce que
their
c'est une
first ever
rencontre
World Cup
que vous
match
avez revue
in this
ou est-ce
competition.
cette fois-ci totalement
Did
différent?
you rewatch the games from 2018, or is this going to be different?
Non, c'est différent.
No, this will
À
be
partir du
different.
moment où les effectifs ont
Why?
évolué,
Because
que
the
ce soit du côté
squad has
australien ou
changed.
du côté de la France.
Be we talking about the French team or the Australian team, the teams have changed.
Mais on peut s'attendre au même style de
But
match.
I think that the style of play will be the same.
Et on n'a pas envie de connaître la même sensation que nous avons pu avoir
we don't want to have that same
après ce
feeling
match
that
en Russie.
we did
Même
after the
si
game in
la
Russia.
victoire, c'était
Even
assez,
though we were able to
dans la
bag the win,
performance, c'était insuffisant.
from a performance point of view, we weren't
On a
up to
envie de bien
scratch.
démarrer avec
Therefore, we want to get off
un
to a
contenu,
good
une
start
performance
with great content, great
d'un
performance,
bon niveau et
and a
nous
great
donner un
level
élan dans cette
in order to really give us impetus for the rest of the
We are going to
competition.
take
Thank you.
our last questions. So with those gentlemen over there. Here. Thank you.
Yes, David Bashir from SBS Australia. A question in English. Hugo, can you tell us where you think you can exploit Australia in your tactics and where you think Australia's strengths lie for this first match?
Non, avant tout, je pense que l'équipe d'Australie est une équipe compétitive.
Before anything, I think that Australia is a very competitive team, a team that has got a lot of confidence that they were able to gain in the game against Peru. They won on penalties, and I think that this actually brings the team together, and this creates very good mentality and resolve within a squad. For the set pieces, we need to be very careful. I know that when the transitions, getting up front, they're very quick as well. They can penetrate very quickly as well. Therefore, we need to keep up the pace as well. We need to look at our strengths up front, of the way that we are able to penetrate, the way that we are able to get very quickly up the field. We have men in the box, but also trying to find that balance so that we don't find ourselves having to deal with the counter. And therefore, We want to have a lot of possession of the ball, and we're going to try and do this
We
tomorrow.
Time for one last question. So, lady over here. Thank you.
Hugo, bonjour. Mathilde Espinasse, Infosport, Canal+. Depuis le départ de Karim Benzema en tant que capitaine,
Since
est-ce que vous avez eu
the
un rôle
depart of Karim
particulier
Benzema as the
pour parler aux
captain of
joueurs,
this
essayer
team,
de faire en
have
sorte
you
que ce
had a
soit pas
role to
trop un
play?
gros coup dur
Have
et est-ce que c'est aussi quelque chose
you
qui peut permettre de
tried
guider un peu plus
to
le groupe, ce genre d'événement?
bring the team together despite the blow that you've
Oui,
taken
un
with
coup dur,
Karim's departure?
forcément.
Yes, it was
Comme je
hard
disais tout
for
à l'heure,
us.
on connaît
As I
l'importance de
mentioned
Karim,
earlier,
ce qu'il peut
we know just
représenter
how important Karim is within
pour le
the
football français,
team,
mais également pour les jeunes
not
joueurs
only for the team,
de
but
notre
also
équipe.
for French football and the younger
Ceci
players within
étant,
our squad. That said,
malgré la déception, malgré la
despite the
tristesse
disappointment,
de le voir
despite the
partir,
sadness upon
il a
seeing
fallu
him leave,
continuer à avancer
we needed to
et à
continue,
se préparer
get our heads down, carry on,
pour
and
cette grande
also
échéance,
prepare
malgré
ourselves for this World Cup.
la jeunesse qu'il peut y avoir dans notre effectif. Ce sont des
Yes,
joueurs
we are a
matures
young squad, but our players, despite their young age, are very
qui
mature.
ont rêvé de faire
And they have
partie
dreamt
de cette Coupe du
of
Monde et qui
being
auront
part
envie
of
bien figurer.
this
Donc,
World Cup, and they want to
oui, il y a une
show
ossature
exactly what they can do.
dans ce groupe de joueurs plus expérimentés.
Yes,
Pardon.
we have
Oui, on devra les guider à un certain moment
more
dans cette
experienced
compétition.
players, and we're going to
Peut-être avoir
guide
les bons
the
mots
younger
également
ones.
avant ce premier match pour rappeler l'importance
Maybe talk
d'un
about the
premier match de la Coupe du
importance
Monde pour lancer
of
une bonne
the
dynamique.
curtain raiser for a World Cup,
Mais
and we can have a
ensuite,
pep talk
ils ont le
prior to our game
talent.
tomorrow.
Pour
But
la
they've
plupart, ils
got
évoluent
what
tous
it takes.
dans les plus grands clubs européens.
They are in the best European clubs.
Et je les sens
They have talent.
sereins par rapport à tout ça.
And I feel that they've got great peace of mind
Thank
prior
you.
to this
Now
first
we
game.
will welcome the coach, Didier Deschamps.
Merci.
Welcome Didier. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Bienvenue.
Merci.
Welcome.
Question 4.
Bonjour Didier, Nicolas Georgerot, RTL. On l'évoquait avec
Nicolas Georgerot, RTL. We were speaking with Hugo a couple of minutes ago, and obviously the final stages of the World Cup. Some of them have caps under their belt, and some of them it is a first World Cup. Do you think that how are they dealing with the pressure? You know the group. We do have some players that are more experienced than others, but we are a group that are looking forward to getting the competition started. It's tomorrow for us. There's no apprehension whatsoever, no. We've done everything possible so that the boys are feeling good about this first game, the best that they can. This first game that is not decisive, but it's important. We know that your first game in a competition is always very important. There's no anxiety or anything. Everyone is calm. Everyone's got a cool head. We know that Australia will be a difficult opponent. They'll give us a run for our money, but we will put everything we can into place for the win. Good afternoon, Didier, over here. Kevin Gavioche, Charente Libre. It's never easy to defend your title. Over the course of the past few years, do you think that you will fall victim to the curse of the title holders? And what have you done over the course of the past few years to avoid this? This context is based on statistics, on probability, on fact, but I think that each team has their own journey and has undergone their own journey to get where they are today. it is up to us, internally speaking, to have a squad that is aware of the objective of the first game, and we're not going to be thinking about what could have been. For us, what is important is to focus on the game against Australia. Everything that's come before is on the sideline now. There are analyses, there are interpretations that can be made. Do with them what you will, but we'll be ready for this first game tomorrow. Didier over here, Le Parisien. We know that during the Euros, Karim Benzema scored the penalty against Portugal. So, what do you think the case will be tomorrow? Well, it won't be him tomorrow if there is a penalty. There are lots of different possibilities. We do have a hierarchy within the team for the penalty takers, but we've also got different situations that need to be taken into consideration. It depends on how everyone's feeling and how those involved are feeling as well, if ever a penalty were needed to be taken tomorrow. Good afternoon, Didier. Over here, Stefan from Le Parisien as well. My question is the following. You don't have Paul Pogba with you, and now you don't have Karim Benzema. Do you not think that you'll be missing a leader within your squad? Antoine Griezmann said yesterday that there wasn't a lot of chat going on outside of the pitch. So are you asking people to take more of a leadership role now, to take responsibility of the squad? Do you think that I can just click my fingers and someone can say, okay, I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to give pep talks, and I'm going to lead the squad to victory? No, it's something that comes in place over time. We do have leaders that are part of the team now that weren't there 7 or 8 years ago, or even 10 years ago. Therefore, it is a process. We do have some of the team veterans that do have that capacity to take the floor to speak, but there are other types of leadership. It's not just about speaking. If it's about speaking for blowing hot air, then that's not really worth it. For us, it's important that each player is a leader in their position. And we'll see what they're made of on the pitch. I think that we have enough players who are and who are able to stimulate and get the others going. Be we talking about the dressing rooms, even internally, on the pitch, on the sidelines, with the different discussions. And we have seniority that comes into place, but also the experience that they have. Some of them have this skill set, others no. Some of them don't feel legitimate with regard to the group. So once again, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not something that we can do overnight, but we have exactly what we need. Good afternoon, Didier. On the left here. I'm from LDNA. I'll be speaking in French. Given the absence of Karim Benzema, have you thought about your formation? What is it going to look like up front, or are you going to stick to your guns? Is this a hidden question? What are you trying to ask? No, no. Even though I have a lot of options available to me, it's not just because unfortunately Karim is no longer able to compete in this World Cup that my options have changed. I already had different options available to me. I had different possibilities for my formation, and that remains to be the case.
I'm from Brazil. Good afternoon. Mbappe was very young in 2018. He's still a very young player. How did you see his evolution since that World Cup, and how do you see the responsibility he has on the team after so many injuries? Thank you.
C'est vrai que Kylian était jeune, il est tout jeune, il est toujours jeune.
Yes, it's true. He was young and he's still young, maybe not as young because he's obviously 4 years older than he was in Russia. But he was a great player. He played an important role 4 years ago on the pitch. And he was very mature at the time. He's even more mature now because of what's gone on over the course of the past 4 years. And there's been even more global recognition, more responsibility. Obviously, he has what it takes to stand up from the crowd, to score. His aura is second to none. This was the case 4 years ago, it still is the case now. But he is a team player, he's part of the squad, and he needs his players around him with, once again, the capability that few players have to be decisive at any point of time in the game. Good afternoon, Jérémy Talbot from the French press agency. How's Varane doing, Raphaël Varane? And will he be fit to start the game tomorrow? Are you able to maybe talk about Camavinga, Edouard Camavinga? Let me start off with the second part of the question. I know that you need to be on your toes, and I tell this to my players as well. Yes, sometimes you have a player who isn't there for a training session or 2 training sessions. Why? Because if there's a little niggle, rather than force someone to take part in a training session and they're not on the top of their game the next day, Camavinga, no worries at all, no concerns. But the fact that just because he's not part of a training session today doesn't mean that he won't be fit to start tomorrow or fit to start one of the other games. And the same can be said for any of our players. For Raphaël Varane now, he's doing very well. He is fit to start. He will be available for the opening game against Australia. Good afternoon, Didier. On the left over here, I'm from L'Équipe. When the question was asked a couple of days ago, you said that you didn't believe in the idea of having 4 up front. I'm talking about Antoine Griezmann being up front as well. Has this changed since then? It all depends on how I set them up, but it's not because I've got 4 forwards that will be more dangerous or will pose more of a danger to the opponent. It's about balance. If we've got the ball, it's fine. Against any team. I've rethought certain systems. I've thought about different formations. I've thought about how I want to set up my players. But I feel like I'm repeating myself. I could start with any starting 11. As long as we have possession of the ball, it will go swimmingly. Because we know that when we've got the ball, the opponent will be compact in their defense. However, when our team doesn't have possession of the ball, that's when it may be a little bit more complicated for us.
سؤالي موجه ريبين رمزي الرداو سؤالي موجه
I have a question.
Okay. ريبين رمزي الرداو سؤالي موجه للمدرب
Ramzi Roda, I have a question. After Karim Benzema injury, why did you refuse to replace him with another player, knowing that we have heard talks about Martial replacing him?
C'est ma décision. Si j'ai pris celle-là de rester avec ce groupe de 25, c'est parce que
I've got 25 players in my squad. And I'm convinced, I think that I have a sufficient number of players within my squad to be able to deal with the challenges that we face. Before we had 22, 23, now we can have up to 26. We did have 26, we're now at 25. We can have 5 substitutions. Yes, that's true, it's more than before. A lot of possibilities. I think that regardless of whether we're 22, 23, 24, 25, there are lots of players that will be on the bench. And therefore, I believe that the players that I have, we have everything that we need. France lost Benzema, but you also have Olivier Giroud. What about the defense, though? What do you think about... I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question, says the coach. Who lost who? France has lost Benzema, but you still have Olivier Giroud. And he's a shining star at Milan. However... No, they love him in France. You're saying that people don't like him in France? Even here, look, see, there are lots of French journalists here who enjoyed criticizing Giroud. It's no longer the case. His cap was something that was not negotiable, not for me, not for Olivier either. But sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead with your question. No, Olivier is part of our team, and he's a veteran of our squad. The skills that he has in his register that makes him, even when he's not scoring goals, because we know that he went through a little bit of a dry spell, but he was important to the team that he was playing for at the time up front. He's here.
This is going to be
He's
our
ready.
last question for this press conference.
Bonjour Didier, Philippe Sanfourche pour RTL.
La dernière.
Philippe for RTL, last question. Have you been able to speak to Mr. Le Gret, the president of the French Football Federation? What about, you're looking to hit that final four? Do you think that with the injuries that you've been hit with, this objective will still be realistic? And do you think that we will have to be less ambitious, looking for more solidity, and maybe looking to be a little less flamboyant, given the different issues? So yes, I do speak to the president of the French FA on a regular basis. He calls me, and we speak about lots of things. Our objective here is to focus on the first game. Everyone has been through their own journey to get here, with players that were fit, players that were injured, players that didn't make the squad, players that were uncertain for different types or for different phases of the competition. But what we're going to do is full steam ahead with the team that we have available to us. Less ambition, or less of a desire to do everything and everything to get to the end? No, I wouldn't think so. But if we could have a little bit more understanding from you, from the media, that would be nice. If you could cut us a little bit of slack, that would be great. But we know exactly what needs to be done and what's waiting for us. We're not counting our chickens before they've hatched. We know our three opponents waiting for us, and you know Australia very well, but you haven't asked me anything about Australia, but that's perfect. That suits me.
Thank you. Merci Didier.